Well, I got a bit more from it today, actually, just going through it again.
This happens with readings
It does,
again and
doesn't it?
again. Yeah.
The nice thing that I realized was the age of the writing suddenly appeared to me when you said typewriter. I'm like, because this is obviously, the course was written in the 60s, but it's amazing how it's timeless. And the only thing that kind of places it is that example of typewriter, which obviously you updated to laptop there.
Yes.
But
Well, I'd just like to say that, of course, when I did the course
you had
in 1984, I had a typewriter. That was my main thing for writing my notes and also writing my book that I was writing at that time. So the typewriter was very close to me at that time.
Yeah.
And of course, the telephone was on a wire,
Yeah, the good
stuck it to the wall,
where it should have been, not constantly carried around with
a
us.
proper telephone.
Yes. No, that was nice. And then the other thing that just jumped out at me then, cleared of the debris that darkens it. I've got this visual picture now that there are physical debris, inside. Well, we wouldn't be physical, but metaphysical debris, which was quite an interesting picture. But when I first did this lesson, I realized that I'd been desperately, well, I'll read what I wrote on my musing originally on Patreon. It was the highlight of the practice of this lesson that stands out to me here. I realize I've been desperately trying to formulate an understanding in my previous musings, especially on time. So, looking at our conversations on lesson 7 and 8, and despite me having a very good, positive experience, trying to comprehend time in that way, I realized that, I was desperate to formulate an understanding, and actually, there needs to be a recognition that you don't understand for this prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. So the exercises, it says, are concerned with the practice, not the understanding. I mean, that's really the case of the workbook as a whole, really. Just kind of go through it and practice it,
Yes.
You've got to do the practice. So anyway, I said that I feel I am somewhat clear now that I am absolutely unable to physically perceive the present, as I am aware I can't even have my mind settle in the feeling of the present moment for very long. I can't even, even if I could, I physically can't see it with my eyes, which is what we established. And then even when I'm kind of get this present feeling, I'm soon pulled out of it back into the kind of menial life of going around that I've habitually trained myself for the last 30 odd years, so I do believe that my mind is in some memory state. Everything that's being projected is memories, as I've already said. So now this idea of remembering has a kind of renewed significance to me. I think that's quite good, because people talk about remembering all the time, remembering. Once you realize you're in memory, you now go, well, remembering is what we're doing then, isn't it? This whole time. So for me, lesson 9, this is very funny actually, because I wrote this when I got to lesson 9, and I feel like this is the point in which to actually get started in remembering stuff.
Right.
So although we've done 8 other lessons, 9 suddenly feels like the start of the course or the start of the workbook.
Well, that's very good.
But I have to say that I can't remember which lesson it is, but I get a few more lessons along and I go, oh no, it starts here. And then, I get like 20 lessons in and I'm like, oh no, now I'm really starting. So it's quite funny that each time I grasp something, it's like the next one along, it's like, oh, this is the real start, for me.
Yeah.
So, but 9 did feel like a new start now, and I see nothing as it is now. So that was my musing. My thinking on that. And I then did obviously the practice, keeping things close to me. I think I managed to do all 4 that day actually. I didn't write them all down, but it was quite, I was acknowledging the fact that I I know that I'm seeing a memory, even if it's a millisecond ago. I'm not seeing that thing as it is now. Literally not seeing it as it is now. So that also, I thought at this point I could share Mum's favourite poem.
Oh, great.
Because I realised that, because I'm in a memory state, everything that's kind of going on is in my mind. And Mum's favourite poem from James Allen, from the little book As a Man Thinketh, says that mind is the master power that moulds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, bring forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass.
Wonderful, isn't it?
So that's a lovely little poem.
Yes.
But 9 and everything. Well, I mean, I'm a bit further along really now in my thinking, but this mind being the power, master power that molds and makes, so all of this stuff, I'm not seeing it as it is now, and I'm kind of molding it to how I think it needs to be seen or should be seen, or my understanding and experiences of things are being molded by my own perspective, my own mind, you see. So yeah, that's kind of all I've got for lesson 9. So I would like to hear a bit more from you today, really.
Yeah. Well, the idea, of course, that mind is behind everything you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell, introduces something that you can't see. You can't see mind, but you can see it in the looking glass, as it says in that.
Well, yes,
James's Allen.
Environment is but his looking glass.
So you can see it in the environment, and you can see it in the so-called looking glass, but you can't see mind itself. It's invisible, and it can't be heard, or touched, taste, and smelt. So this introduction to mind is quite something, isn't it? And I remember for myself, so I'm going back a long way now, when I first went to a talk by my teacher, Nora, and I'd come into some Science of Mind classes, but I'd never heard her speak publicly. And she said that she was doing a talk in the town hall in Bournemouth, a public talk. And I thought, well, I'll go along with a friend and go along and hear her speak. So I settled myself down in the audience. There were probably 80 to 100 people there, something like that. And she came up onto the rostrum, as they say, up front, and started to talk. And what I was aware of very quickly was this light that appeared around her. And I'd never seen light around a person before. It looked like a sort of physical light, but the person I was with couldn't see any light. I could see this light coming from her as she was speaking. And she spoke with great authority on the subject, and about the science of mind and the mind and so on. And I had this thought before she finished speaking that I'd never had before in my life, this thought. And it was, whatever she's got, I want it. Whatever she's got, I want it. Now, obviously, there's not a thing relating to male or female. It was this essence that was producing this light around her.
Connection, really, isn't it?
And the way she was speaking, of course, was from inspiration. And I'd never been to a purely inspirational talk before. I'd heard people talk and lecture on subjects. I'd been to spiritualist places where there were channelings going on, but this was a person speaking from inspiration. And from that inspiration seemed to emanate this light. So that was my first experience of the light. And this changed my approach to my study. Before then, I'd assumed an understanding of the mind from what I'd been reading, and I'd assumed that I learned quite a bit. And a lot of the time when I was reading stuff and listening to people talk, I would go, yeah, well, I know that. I know that. I know that. And what occurred on that day was, for probably the first time in my life, was that I became teachable. Because before then, I was self-taught.
And you were.
I was taught by the books I read, but I was reading them, and I was taught by the people I listened to, and I was self-teaching while I was listening to them.
Yeah.
And I acquired this thing called being teachable. And I didn't know it was being teachable until I spoke to Nora about it. And she said, yes, you've become teachable. And she said about a large number of the group that were with her, that most of them were unteachable. And they were unteachable because they would say, oh yeah, I understand that. Oh yeah, I know that. I know that. I understand that.
Right.
So the state of being teachable is that you don't understand it. And if you do understand it, you're unteachable because you've already decided you understood it.
Yes.
So this lesson is pointing this mental quality out that's required for learning, required for receiving the inspiration of the course, and to find a new kind of teaching that has not been practiced by the person before. A teaching from within, the teaching from the teacher.
Intuition, in a teaching.
So,
well, I mean, I might interrupt you here because there's just so many things that you've said there, which is really nice. And one of them, I suppose, this inspired talk versus lecture.
Yes.
So you said you went to many lectures before, and even, you said about the channelings, and to some degree, the channelings, especially in spiritualism, is very interesting because it's not necessarily the individual embodying this inspiration. It's actually the individual allowing an entity, a discarnate, another voice to use their instrument. So you're not getting the authentic connection.
No.
You're getting kind of a secondary connection through a channel.
Exactly.
Whereas what you probably witnessed in Nora was an authentic connection to spirit.
Very true.
Or mind.
Yes.
In order for her to flow in an inspired state.
Yes.
I think a lot about obviously working in the arts, being creative. I think a lot about this process called flow state. And many musicians, many artists, this is the kind of state that they aspire to be in basically when they're creating. When they're in their most creative form, you want to be in flow state. You're in expression.
Yes.
You're just allowing something to express through you without the limiter, without the ego, without the block that's kind of stopping you. And it's the same for talking, I think, and the same for doing inspired talks.
Yes.
As you remove your ego that wants to portray things a certain way, or that wants to show knowledge or intellect, and this is where we get into lecture. Lecture.
People are into lectures.
So lectures then are a display of intellect rather than an intuitive or authentic expression. So really, I think when people talk from an authentic space, they're not lecturing you as such, are they? They're
no.
They're inviting you is on a journey with them, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is what's kind of happening.
Lovely, yeah, that's beautifully put. Extending light is what a course would call it. So you are extending light, or you're projecting your intellect,
Yeah.
and the idea of a processor. You have these core processors in
Yes.
computers.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're what's already known, stuff that's already known by it, and it's in the process. It's being processed.
Yeah.
And we know the difference between processed food and natural food, don't we?
Yes.
And so inspiration is very natural. And the Course says it's normal, it's natural. Miracles are natural, it says.
Yes. Yeah.
But processed food, we would say, is unnatural. So the intellect and the intellectual capacity for learning is unnatural, and miracles are natural, a natural way of learning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very different in well, I mean, it's wonderful how different it is.